Welcome again to the center. We have a number of visitors who we've called them. Dar Al Qalam is don't look at the center itself. It's called Dar Al Qalam. It is the center of the pen. That is the meaning.
The center of the
pen. This pen. Because this is a place where education takes place. Mr. Mayor, we do nurturing here, molding of young kids. And at the end of the day, when those kids have grown and they go to elementary school, they become the best kids because they have that foundation of nurturing the kids and bringing them up. And also the youth itself. That's a very important part of what we are doing. We are trying to get youth out of the evils and the wrongdoings and substance abuse and bring it back to centers of excellence like Dar Al Qalam. It has a number of people who frequent here, so many, about 600 people, kids, do come here to the center from all over this area and its surrounding. We have a lot of concerns. We have sent some volunteers to just say when the mayor is going to come here, can you just have some questions for the mayor? We've set out something, it might not be accurate, but it is just a sketch. Some people have problems with home ownership, particularly the minority. So the home ownership is a problem. So I think, I don't want to just say further than that, but that is a message. Alternative financing, some of us are not, we don't use interest and a lot of other things. So what do you have for that? Do you have an alternative financing? Culturally appropriate, affordable housing is something that we have been talking about for a long time. Some building has come up here which is not so far, but it's only 1 or 2 rooms. So if maybe it can be, we can have bigger spaces for people, then it would do a lot of good for the community. And sometimes that's why kids are thrown out and maybe they leave even schools because of the house is so tight and small. The kids even don't have a space to, maybe even during the time of the pandemic, it was tough because they need to be at home and do homeschooling and distant learning and remote learning. So it is tough in itself. Underfunded public schools, that is your area, I think you'll understand. Youth and substance use is something straightforward. Racism and Islamophobia, which is what we are seeing today in this center. Sure. The Dar Al Qalam itself, today, I'll say in just a short word, in sentences, that the center is under attack from unknown people. So we need to have an agenda for this. What can we do to beef up the security and other things that comes up with that? Neighborhood policing and the police reforms, you are in it, and I think you're going to do good work this time. Although you have been doing good work, and we support what you are doing anyway. And that is one of the things that made the Somali community, I'm talking in general, Jacob Frey to be our mayor, because we need the police, but with the right mind and right. Training
to be better.
And reform, yes.
That's right.
Representation in job opportunities, job opportunities, we need representation. We have community members who have all the credentials, but we just need fair representation, fair. That's what we need. Accessibility of elected officials. It's very hard to get hold of the mayor. We've tried out. I know you're busy, but at least have a day, or maybe come out of the city hall, have another office somewhere where you can meet the public. That is just my suggestion, but elected officials at large, I'm not talking only of you, but in general. In a nutshell, I'll leave there and I'll welcome, we have our director, center director, but first I go to the Imam. The Imam of the center, Sheikh Abdullah, who is an integral figure of the center and the backbone of a lot of things. And that's why most of the communities come and listen to his lectures. Every Friday today, in fact, we have one. I welcome him. Thank you.
So thank you for coming today to Dar Al Qalam Center. I think today the most two important issues that we would like to address is the parking lot and the security, the safety of the center. I don't want to repeat all these issues that our brother Abdullah mentioned, but these two agendas is our main goal today. And I will give it to the director, Mr. Abdul Fattah. But before Mr. Mayor, we don't consider only our mayor, but we consider also you are one of Dar Al Qalam founders and members, because we used to be together like several years ago before you became mayor here in Northeast when you were running for the city council. And I remember when we were standing together there and the weather was so cold, I was giving lecture and you were giving lecture also there. So I used to say, where is our, they say, oh, Mr. Jacob became mayor. I say, yeah, oh, that is fine, but he used to be our, yeah, he was our friend. Where is he? And several times we tried to meet you, but I think it is today. So never late. So we'll discuss and focus on these two issues today. And thank you, all of you guys, for coming. Mr. Abdul Fattah.
We can say Dar Al Qalam Center has been under attack from unknown people for the late. The center has witnessed a number of incidents that has shocked the community. It's really, unprecedented. Northeast used to be a beautiful place, but nowadays we've seen a lot of different things. And some of these incidents is deflating the tires, breaking into my car using the sophisticated high technology. Somebody came to the back lot and just opened my car and took all my stuff. That's scary. I don't know what, taking valuable and house key and going through to my house too. Just knocking the door of my house. I don't know what their, motive or aim. I have no idea. Breaking into my car again, one more time again. They did the same thing again. After 1 day later, they did the same thing they did before. And then vandalizing the central surveillance system, destroying all the face. And because of that, a lot of them now are not functioning because they pull in all the wires. So that is also something that we never observed before. Scarring the door that you see in your own eyes down there, I don't know whether it's a bullet, it is a real one, or it's something else. Also is something that shocked our community. Even the family who just brings their kids here, they all say, oh, no, we cannot come, we cannot come. They always say it's a scary area. So, and 2-3 days ago, there's also another car has been smashed at the window and took some, the pairs and the cell phone, some stuff. All those are indicating that Northeast are not safe anymore. So we want from you to consider that kind of unusual crime is just coming to our city, even Northeast, South, whatever it is. So we wanted to consider that, particularly in Dar Al Qalam and Northeast, we wanted to make sure that the area is a safe place that we can go anywhere and anytime we want. The center has a lot of service for the community, which is family counseling. We don't only do particular thing. The Sheikh do counseling, we do youth programs, community outreach program. Brother Abdullah is a community outreach and, marriage and divorce, masjid facility, women and man, education. There's so many services that we deliver to our community. So as a mayor, we want you to address all that. And I believe the guy who hacked my car and went into my house, the camera clearly show his face, clearly. So it is something I believe if we put effort that we can go to the bottom of that issue, that matter, problem. So I don't want to take so much time. We'll give Sheikh Noor and Brother Jilani Abdullah will just be coordinating us. So before that, we give the mayor. So Jazakallah khair, thank you so much.
You know, at CARE, I usually get the calls before the police is called and to assess the threat. Unfortunately, actually, I was in Ghana and I was able to pick up the call from the Imam saying that we have been vandalized this morning and just dealing with the aftermath. And actually, in Minneapolis now, we've had, this would be, I believe, the second incident within a span of a month. Even our own office, we had a threat that came to us. Someone brought about 41 tires in the back of the building while we were doing a press conference. And that would have just seemed normal dumping, but actually there was another incident that happened at a cemetery where someone brought 50 tires to try to burn down the cemetery building to accelerate the fire, yeah. And this dumping happened broad middle daylight. So I talked to the chief and he was surprised by that. So they're still assessing that. We are constantly reacting. We're not able to be proactive. And I think this is one of the things we need your assistance and the city's resources. We do need to do a threat assessment, and for every mosque in the Twin Cities, and obviously synagogues are much better. There are federal resources. There are other things we could tap into, but we need the initial capacity support to get us to that level. So, for example, there's another mosque not far from here that's also been vandalized. They have camera. Not all the cameras work perfectly. These cameras work perfectly, but obviously, as you can tell, yeah. So we need to figure out a way we can get I think usually the fire department or the police department can do an assessment to figure out if the cameras are working. And then from there on to see if we can get initial support from the city and maybe some of the city partners to get initial grants to get us at least to a point where we can access some of those federal resources as well. Because I think that's critical. Otherwise, we're just going to be back here in a month from now at another location where this happened. I think in the beginning of the pandemic, we had the mosque in North Minneapolis burned down, at least the front door area. And that incident was kind of washed away because there's really no cameras there. But there was somebody actually throwing, I think, was burning things down in that area. I think they were eventually caught. We don't know if that's the same. Obviously, we don't have the evidence, but they actually tried to burn down one of the businesses on the north side of by the river there. So
was that one targeted? Was that targeted?
It was deemed as fire from the like electrical fire, okay. But it was inconclusive because it was right next to a window that could have been used to shoot some sort of like a fire thing, yeah. But anyways, all of these, most of our mosques are struggling. As you probably see, these are public spaces, you know, for the Muslim community. They're public. We don't have a membership. I could be on this side of the city today and pray here. Tomorrow I could be on that side. So the traffic and the movements is very free. What we also know from our work with Southern Poverty Law Center and others is that white supremacy groups, particularly militias, have now, not only are they targeting, but they're actually doing reconnaissance missions. So they're actually coming into the mosque acting like they're just regular, but they're really trying to actually identify how the building is structured so that if they have to attack the mosque, that they would come and do that. And we've seen that actually in some of the information that we were able to pull out in North Dakota and other places. So we are also a little bit concerned about, I would say, the response rate. So right now, if someone calls at a mosque and says, we have a window broken, the Minneapolis police will not elevate that. They will see that as a broken window at a regular establishment. We need to make sure that if a mosque calls for anything, that is prioritized as A level, that somebody has to show up within 15 or 20 minutes. And the reason why is because when people are actually called, they don't know, they cannot assess the full threat. Usually someone who calls, they're trying to identify. And we've had that happen multiple times. Even in my office, when we received a bomb, not a bomb threat, but we received an actual threat, we're gonna kill you. We received it over the voicemail. Our staff called it in. I had to call the chief for somebody to come out. And it was almost 4 hours after we received that. And my entire staff left the building. So That's another thing that we're concerned that if somebody calls, it cannot just go into the traditional low-level call, which happens. If somebody calls at a building, says, oh, by the way, I saw somebody break a window, it's going to go into an immediate low level. But they have to, obviously, somebody has to identify that it's a religious place and should be prioritized. The other couple of things that I think are exceptionally important is, with a growing immigrant population and that population becoming essentially important, this is something I've asked the other city council members to really think about, is how do we imagine breaking the traditional systems of how government works? Right now, for someone to access the city resources, it's all vertical. You either go to the public works, and somebody in the public works knows that route. Nobody knows how to go horizontal. Nobody can take you through that maze. 311 doesn't work. Usually it's the staff that work for city council, but those are overwhelmed and they're not going to be able to migrate. And a lot of our community don't know where to start. They may have an issue at this part of the department, but they actually really need help somewhere here. No one can take them there. They'll just keep sending him, and then they start at point zero, where you can actually have. So we need those cultural navigators or city navigators that are also accessible outside of the city buildings. So for example, Cedar Riverside is one of the most dense areas. That area should have city navigators walking in those neighborhoods, being accessible to address the city resources so that those community can benefit from, as well as in North Minneapolis, some of the areas that have the highest challenges, but also the highest, because while the safety issue is critical, as the imams mentioned, there's a lot. I mean, at CARE Minnesota, we handle about 5,000 to 6,000 calls a year on a minimum. 90% of those calls are referred out because people are asking for information. And we then become trying to figure out how to map that. So that's another, I think, a big concern for us. But as far as the security, I think, my nieces come here for Sunday school. So when something like this happens, it does put a huge fear in our community. And, as someone who understands that pain in your community as well, probably more organized than us, but at least understands that pain, I think it's important that we figure out how city and staff resources can be allocated to provide that safety, but also, I think more importantly, to empower our community to be able to ensure that we have the resources. Our plan worked. The mosque plan worked, the cameras worked. There are other mosques that cameras may not be as effective, but even those cameras enough, it's not enough. And we need to make sure that the urgency level is there immediately to respond. I think from a public perspective, as you as a city mayor, responding to that attack as aggressively as possible from a media perspective, but also even just in general, will help ensure that not only is it a concern, but there's effort being addressed with it immediately. Just like with any other high-profile incident, if we have a mosque incident that happened, one of the biggest reasons why we technically share public is because we want to ensure that everybody knows about it, we're doing something about it, but also to actually send a message back to the perpetrators and others that our mosques have cameras, that the FBI is going after them, and that there's actual effort to be able to address it. So I think I'll stop.
yahay oo dhinacay u socdaan yaqaanaatiin waana idinkaga mahadnaqaya intaas. Marka waxaan rabaa Jelani wuxuu yiri my niece intaad aniga both of my sons graduated from your preschool program here in Dar Al Qalam from 4 years ago, 3-4 years ago. Marka waa this is an important asset for our community, and I personally understand and I'm attached to this place. Waana mahadsantiin, waana ka xunnahay and vandalization kii iyo in muxuu ahaa masaajidada guud ahaanba in noqdeen meela la target garayo. Taas aad iyo aadaan uga xunnahay. Waxaan rabaa inaan ka hadlo the navigators. Waxaa jiro horta waa jira magaaladu dhaliil badan way leedahay, dhaliil aad u fara badan, and rightfully so. Dadkeennuna marka la fiiriyo ma reflect garayaan tiradooda guud iyo it doesn't really reflect tiradooda guud. Taasna anaa markhaati ka laakiin waxaa jiro we've made a lot of progress in the last few years. And had the police oo kale, they have cultural navigators. Waxaana jooga wiil Somali within the police department or cultural navigator. And NCR waxaa jiro navigator. Even public works waxay qabaan navigators. And marka the question about accessing city resources, and I'm happy to share those contacts oo dad badan oo Somali, from business licensing to health department and departmentyadas oo dhan waagii horena ma jirin. That's that. Intaasi marka waxaan rabaa inaan idinku soo xiro and mayorkana u sii gudbinayaa so you can address some of the public safety questions here. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Of course.
Well, it is a great honor to be here in Dar Al Qalam with all of you. This place and the people around the table hold a special place in my heart, given that we have had very long-term relationships from the very beginning, and given that I am apparently a founding member of Dar Al Qalam. And my commitment is sincere. Let me apologize for the difficulty in getting a hold of me. While my schedule is busy, let me assure you that you all are a priority for me, and indeed one of the first community meetings that I have taken in my new term. And let me express that is, and emphasize that is indicative of the important nature of these relationships in this room and my commitment to all of you. There are several the issues that you have addressed, and so my apologies for the lack of formality, but I wanted to jump right in to address some of the matters that you have provided here. So, first, the home ownership. Yes, the home ownership is an area that we are working very hard on because ownership is a key way of building generational wealth. And so we want to help make sure that you have the opportunity the Somali community has the opportunity to own, and we want to make sure that there are culturally sensitive and appropriate financing as well. We do have programs through the city that have proper financing without interest. We are working with a couple of different banks as well to incentivize them to provide a similar situated finance. And we'd be happy to link you up with them and to explain how those work. Affordable housing, absolutely, this is a priority for me. If there are areas where we can improve on our cultural sensitivity to that affordable housing, please don't hesitate to let us know. Underfunded public schools, so what you will know about me is that I will not overpromise and then underdeliver.
Good.
And so I don't want to tell you that I'll be able to fix the funding situation in the public schools because that is outside of our purview. So I cannot deliver on that one, and I apologize, but I will advocate for you there. Racism and Islamophobia. Let me pause here and express how terrifying and concerning the kind of attacks that you have seen are. This is your community, these are your families. As a relatively new father, I can fully understand how concerned I would be if Farida, our daughter, and Abshiro's niece, how concerned we would be if we were put in those situations, and let me assure you, we will do everything possible to help there. It was mentioned that we need an immediate response. So when, for instance, a window breaks or a threat is made, there is a quick and immediate response. So I will talk after this meeting with our police department about how we prioritize the calls, specifically with respect to religious entities. And yes, it should be a priority. I will note that in prioritizing, one of our biggest issues is simply the lack of officers that we presently have. Right now, we have fewer officers per capita than any major city in the country. We have fewer. we need to rebuild, we need alternative response, and we also need police. And you all have been very consistent about that in talking to me. We simply can't prioritize our response if, for instance, there's other shootings going on, and we don't have enough officers. So this is something that we need to work on together, but I will talk to them about when appropriate, prioritizing specifically religious facilities and Dar Al Qalam. Next, the parking lot. So you said that it is presently held by the railroad, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And they have made an offer at this point, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And the ultimate use that you would like to see is a combination of a playground and parking lot? Is that right?
And basketball.
Okay. Well, this is an area where we can help guide you through the city process. And in all of these issues, consider Abdi Kadus, our director of navigation. He is our director. He is a direct contact that you all can make so that we can help navigate through the city process, and where maybe you don't know how to liaison through, he would be a good one. Council members are also a good one, but there's nobody better than Abdi Kadus at just simply getting things done. Nobody. And so please don't hesitate to contact there. Let's, on that issue of the parking lot, because that's a very kind of clear and tangible thing that we can help work on, let's make a contact with CPED to see where they would be at in the process. And
so thank you so much. Actually, Abdi Qudus, Abshiro, you do a lot for the community. I am in a place, like kind of public place, like, restaurant is like you will see maybe 100 different people a day, and I know how people talk about you and what you do for the community. I just want to say one message. I just want to pass one message on behalf of the mothers who the kids comes here for madrasa and school. As you know, security is what brings us as a Somali community. What brings us to United States is security. So kids. There's mothers who their kids are not coming no more to this center just because of security. And that is really, it's not a good sign while you're in the United States and your kids cannot go to the center because of security. So I will say, try your best